Thanks again, Jack, for coming on the podcast, and really appreciate your time on this. Welcome to Business Vision, the podcast. First things first, can you introduce yourself and tell people sort of what you do creatively? That'd be great.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'm always excited to be able to share my experiences and the path that I've been able to be on for the past 5 years now of a full-time artist. So that's what I am. I'm Jack Soren. I'm from the North Shore of Oahu, Hawaii, and I'm a full-time artist who focuses on murals, freelance illustration, character design, and paintings on canvas for like fine art galleries. And then a lot of fun hobby stuff I get to on the side, like making merchandise and whatnot from my little world that I'm creating from my tiny island in the middle of the Pacific. But it's been
Sounds like a
amazing to,
dream.
it is a dream. Honestly, I've been able to live my dream for the past 5 years as I step forward into, you know what, we're going to do it full time. We're going to try to figure it out and make it work. And it's worked out really well so far. So my younger self would be pretty excited about where I'm at now. So that's
I
fun.
bet, I bet, I bet. You were born and raised in Hawaii. What was it like growing up there?
Honestly, that's the first dream, you know, that's, uh, for a lot of people, you know, I always like to keep myself, remind myself that, you know, a lot of people will spend years to save up just to fly out here for a week of their time, you know, and I get to live here. I'm blessed enough to
I mean, amazing,
live
right?
here. Yeah, like it's every day. It'd be awesome if every day was like a vacation, but you know, we still have to live, thrive, and survive. But honestly, growing up as a kid, it was really inspiring to have so much nature at our, you know, to access, and we were rarely indoors, whether it was going to the beach and hanging out with friends, surfing, skateboarding, climbing mountains and hiking, and all of it was really good for us as kids, and particularly where I'm from on the North Shore, we're predominantly known for our surfing and for some of the best waves um, on the planet, like consistently in one small area. Um, so for us, I feel like as a kid, we learned how to be comfortable in sometimes dangerous situations or with nature, you know, like we were
Right.
cliff jumping off rocks into the ocean, doing flips at like 13, you know, like, so it was pretty fun to have like a sense of comfortability with scary situations, which I feel like brought a lot of confidence into how a lot of my friends and I move throughout the world. So it was really amazing, and just surrounded by just a postcard, beautiful picture every way you turn. So naturally, it flows into the art.
I mean, that must be something actually to be around the landscape that you are. I mean, that must come on like a daily inspiration, sort of get up and go kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, we say I live in the countryside, which there's Honolulu, which is the city on the south side of the island, and I live up north where there's more farms and chickens on the street. But when I go into the city for work, that whole drive is just every corner is just inspiring. Whether it's sunny or whether it's raining, there's like a mystical um, feeling about it in all types of weather. So it's pretty inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you were obviously very creative from a young age. What are some of the earliest memories that has really instilled that creativity?
I think I'd always appreciate my mom and my parents, my dad. My father was a Hawaiian jeweler, which he worked with gold, and not just like the bone hooks and the weaving of the necklace, but he made jewelry of gold, like wedding rings, Hawaiian designs and patterns. He would hand carve into gold, and that's a style of jewelry that we wear here, culturally, locally. And then my mother is a amazing seamstress, artist, and creative herself in many different disciplines. So as a young kid, I was in the best environment for creativity, and it was celebrated and it was welcomed. And so I'm very grateful for that. And so as a kid, I feel like I had every opportunity to just express myself in any way that came. And whether it was drawing on my action figures to change the color of their suits, or melting them with fireworks to maybe make them look molten, or all kinds of fun, making swords out of tin foil to go sword fight with my friends. A lot of that fun, imaginative, um, creativity was all throughout my childhood, and my whole family is very creative. So I'm in a really good spot, um, to come from that.
No, absolutely. I mean, I do wonder because you sort of had such great creative impact as a youngster. I mean, what's it like now, still, I suppose, working in the same area as an adult, but as a full time artist now? What's the difference, do you think?
That's a great question, actually, because there's a type of freedom as a kid, very free. There's not as many walls that you put up as you got older and go through experiences, and somewhat have to toughen up against the world and make sure you're being safe. But I really love that innocence as a child, to just not really care what other people think and just do it, and just have fun with it. And so as an adult, now that I do have those walls, a lot of the mental things, a lot of the emotional things in life that have sprung up, they've built themselves up, and I'm slowly trying to either make a window through them or knock down a wall that I don't want there anymore. But I'm always trying to get back to that free expression and that imaginative, mindset, and anything it is that I can do to get back to that youthful, playful creativity is really important to me, because I don't really want to grow up to be a grumpy old man. And sometimes I feel like I can get that way sometimes, but it's just stress of being an adult. It's always gonna creep in, but I always try to surround myself with very youthful things. Like I still love animation and cartoons. I love figures and designer toys, and playing video games with my friends. I just feel like a big kid. It's
Oh,
I
oh,
know when to be
completely.
I know when to be professional, but I also know, like, being playful and fun. It really helps with not being so serious with what I'm doing, and that's what I like to communicate, with just fun colors and
Oh,
playful attitudes.
completely. And I think that's where the best storytelling comes from, right? Being playful and sort of finding out other areas that you'd love to tap into,
Hmm.
you know. And it's quite interesting because you creatively work on, fine art, murals, graffiti, video, sculpture, graphic design, branding, fashion. I mean, what is your preferred form, would you say? Or do you think each application ticks a different box each time?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think for me, I think that's just how my mind works. I've been able to do some work and be a little bit more self-aware of how my brain works, and I've always noticed throughout life that I could never really sit still on, like, certain ideas or things. Like, I just enjoy the curiosity of just trying it out. Um, where if it was a fun sculpture idea that came to mind, I was like, oh, I just want to try to see what it would look like if I were to create it, and bring it into existence, which had allowed me to explore so many different fields of art or creativity. I tried music, but I can't keep a beat at all. I tried so many times. My sister is the musical one, but when it came to visually designing things or molding things and making masks or little pieces, I just love tinkering with those things. But as I got older, into a more focused route, I really loved mural art. That was always the first, coming from graffiti as a kid. I started painting graffiti when I was probably like 13, 14 years old. And I just loved how larger than life the artwork was. Like my grandma was a painter, and all throughout my childhood, she'd have paintings around her house, standard maybe 24 by 18 by 24 inches. And so for me, when I got into graffiti, there were just these large shapes and colors, and I always thought that was so impressive. And that's what I gravitated to a lot. Like I found my style within my family because my grandmother was also a poet, a painter. My uncle carved like native tiki sculptures and wooden
Amazing.
jewelry, and another one was a painter, and one was a chef. So everyone had their thing, and for me, I found graffiti and street art, and I loved it so much growing up, and that was my lane and what made me unique. And um, it was supported. Like there was rules and standards that I had personally because I don't want to destroy someone's property, but I was always um, going to places that already had graffiti, or I just love the artwork form of it rather than like the rebellious, destructive side of it.
Sure.
Um, but then that transitioned into murals, right? And so it is funny. I usually share that when I got married, I did have to think about my consequences when it came to graffiti and realize like, well, I don't really want my wife to have to deal with those consequences either. So the
Holding back the
easy,
art.
yeah, yeah. The the next route would be like, well, what can I still do that I love painting giant things. Like, well, let's just change the subject matter and paint murals more, and that is something that I really enjoy because I love the physicality of it too. Like being able to set up a piece of scaffold, like a scaffolding, and climb it like monkey bars, or swinging and being agile on those things. But I just love how larger than life murals can be. One of my favorite murals is in Washington D.C., and it's a collaboration between two other artists where we did our characters almost like our graffiti characters on this six-story building. And for me, when we're done and I'm looking at it, I'm just like, there's a six-story tall giant walrus character with speed shades on and a captain's hat, and someone let me do this. Like this is just has a
Yeah.
life of its own in the middle of a big city, and like that's so fun to me. Like you turn around a corner and these amazing giant characters, and I just love that. So murals have been really fun for me. It gets me out of the studio because the other part of it is designing in the studio, working on emails, working on my tablets and my programs. So it's a good balance for me because sitting in the studio for too long, I get a little antsy. So we'll go do a mural, or we'll go paint graffiti, or do something different. So it's a good little process I've been able to figure out for myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one to look at because, certainly self-employed, freelance, doing your own thing. How do you find that landscape just now, just in terms of the
Yeah.
business, so to speak?
Business, it's definitely I've come to learn that a lot of what I do now in order to have a business doing it, and I always like to encourage like if the business works for you and you enjoy art as well as the business, that's awesome. But in the business side might not always be for certain people. So finding someone who can do it to help you with the business is also really important if that's how you want to make money. But I also encourage like if it's just something that's a hobby and like you love doing that brings you joy in your life and balance without having to worry about the monetary stress of it, then continue with that hobby and find something else that's creative that you can make the money
Yeah,
out.
absolutely.
Yeah, because for me, I love business just as much as art as like a
Yeah, me
creative
too.
problem. And so that's why I always try to encourage friends or try to give advice, but it might not always be what their lane or their path requires, but at least they might have some tips and tricks along the way. So for me, since my family might had businesses and entrepreneurship in my family selling their artwork, there was that in my environment growing up, but I think business is like you just got to try it. Because as a kid, I started making in high school T-shirts with my designs on them, and I just like they're $20, you know, like, and started selling to my friends, and more of my friends wanted them. And then along the way, I mean, I never know what I'm doing. I have to learn as I go. So all I knew is, okay, it costs this much to make the shirt. This much is the blank shirt. Okay, my cost is $7. All right. So let's just try to figure out how to sell it. So I would learn along the way, oh, you need to worry about this or that or the marketing side of it and that. And I'd just be patient with myself and allow myself to fail forward.
Yeah,
Um, if it
absolutely.
didn't, you know, if it didn't work out, I just, okay, back to the drawing board. What didn't work there? What works here? Let's see how we can improve next time. And little things like that, you know, I found a Chinese website that sold hats of basketball teams, and I was like, oh, that's cool. They're $4 each. Let me just buy a few and try to sell them to my friends. So there's always that little bit of hustle um, as a kid, whether it's selling candy bars or Pokemon cards or whatever it was that I
Yeah,
had
I
to.
mean, I remember that well. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's kind of trickled into where through experience and learning on the go and you know being patient with it, I've been able to learn a lot of business strategies as well as reading a lot of good books, self-help books, entrepreneurial books. Um, and then in college, I did take half of my university to dedicate to entrepreneurship to kind of fine tune a lot of those ideas. But the weird thing is that art is such a weird business. No one,
right.
like,
Yeah.
there's
Uh-huh.
no model to really follow because you're a trailblazer when you figure out who you are and your style and how business works for you. There's
Yeah.
definitely tactics that other artists use that you can try and implement.
But it might not work
But
for you because it's a personal,
exactly,
yeah,
yeah, and it's up to you and how you feel about it because I have a set of standards and rules where it's like, I probably wouldn't do that. You know, it's just not my
yeah.
character. Um, And so it is a very, very strange world, especially when it comes to value and personal value and how much someone's story also adds to the value. The materials you use adds to the value. Um, so it's definitely an interesting world for sure.
Completely. And then you sort of add into the mix of the market and which is changing all the time. And
Hmm.
I'm hearing of friends being let go a lot in agencies and whatnot, and they're talking about going solo. And you just, you wish you could say it's absolutely fine, go ahead, but you can't promise anyone anything, in
Yeah,
terms
yeah.
of no,
I
just
think
just wild.
I think there's a magic that happens when you take that leap of faith or that step forward into the unknown, and you believe in it and you believe in yourself and you're consistent with just doing what you love and sharing it, your path kind of finds you. You know, that's what I've found is because I did test all realms of what I was interested in with even going to a design firm to do an internship to see if I even liked working for a graphic design firm because that's how my college kind of geared us towards like, okay, when you're done, you can go turn in your portfolio and try to get working at a firm. But for me, I was like, man, I don't know if that really works for me, but I'll try it anyways. I was on a very lenient internship with a graphic design company that worked for like Universal Studios, Sega, all the fun stuff that I would have loved, but I just couldn't sit in the office for those hours. Like I just couldn't. And so I had to go through a lot of different experiences to learn who I was and what I loved, which was worth it for me. And so when it just came back to I just love street art, graffiti, all that, I knew more of a surety like this is the route I'm gonna take.
Oh,
And then
and
as I yeah, I
yeah,
trusted
no,
it and sorry, come in.
no, sorry. I was just going to say, I think some people are so instilled with being innovative and sort of, and it's always, pays out, well in terms of, you know, truly doing something that you love and that you can do every day, on a day-to-day
Hmm.
basis.
Totally. Because I mean, if no one emailed me or a client didn't hit me up ever again, I would still do art tomorrow type of
Oh,
thing,
yeah, completely. Yeah. It's
And
it's in you, you know?
yeah, yeah. And so it's the bonus that I get to do it for the job and be able to feed my family and pay for bills and all of that as well on top of what I'm doing. And yeah, it's just been a really awesome roller coaster, and I mentioned roller coaster because it is that way.
Oh,
There's
completely.
ups, downs, and loop-de-loops.
Oh, I know.
It's wild.
It's the perfect way to describe it because I do wonder how many people sort of quit it when they can't manage the dips,
Yeah.
because I think it's a tough one to ride if you can't handle that.
Yeah, and I like to say, like, when I die and, like, at the end of my life, I'm like, I'd much rather ride the roller coaster than be comfortable waiting on the side watching everyone else ride the roller coaster, you know?
Yeah,
So I like to take those risks. I like the experiences, and I learn just as much as my from my lows than my highs. Like being able to take a loss and turn it into a lesson has always pushed me a little bit further and happened because I needed it to happen. Like
sure.
even though it looked like an obstacle or a very like hard time in my life, I'm always grateful for those times because I always definitely came out stronger, wiser, a new experience, and more just confident in myself, which I think a lot of artists, like you said, quit too soon when the next step or the next corner, the success is right around the corner, and
Because
you
you
just
don't
couldn't
know.
see.
Yeah, you just
Exactly.
I mean, and I do wonder how much of that is an addictive thing because you just don't know what's going to happen next. Like it could just be that one next push, you know?
And so it's trusting that unknown and just knowing like I could give up or I could just push a little bit longer and take a peek around the corner and there it is, my whole world. So I always
Oh,
want to encourage listeners and people to just try a little bit more than you think you would and see what comes because it's out there. It's there for you. You just have to go find it.
no, absolutely, absolutely. How much does being around the ocean do you think affect your day to day life as an artist? I know for me personally, as a kid, being around ocean, like I couldn't do a day without it.
Mhm. That's an awesome one. The ocean is very it's healing.
Yeah,
It's family. It's its own entity. The way we believe in Hawaiian culture is that the land has a spirit, the ocean has a spirit, and we have a phrase where we say land is chief. So the land and the ocean is higher than we are in the sense of where we're at on this whole plane of existence, and that's just the way we believe. So when we have respect for the land, we have a relationship with it. We don't just see it as something we trot on or build upon or obtain resources from. It's something that it gives us the resources willingly. As we tend to it and take care of it, it gives us those resources to survive. um, and understanding that the ocean and the land both do that for us, both for physical survival, spiritual and mental survival. The ocean is somewhere I go as my place of peace. It's not just like an amusing thing. Like I go to connect with my family, I go to connect with nature, I go to connect with myself,
of
and
course.
it's very meditative. Like being able to sit on my board and go through waves, and oftentimes some of the most beautiful moments I have isn't always actually like surfing the wave, but it's going under it and watching it come over and just seeing how it all kind of works. Is just very, very meditative and healing. And even just watching the waves come in, there's a lot of energy that I know it's funny like to say it out loud
But
and
it's
describe
true.
it,
It's
but
true.
it's true. It definitely is.
I mean, I'm a horrifically bad surfer, but I love taking the board into the water. Like it's like, I do wonder sort of the sort of I think I would be a hell of a lot more less productive in the studio if I didn't have those sea breaks.
Yeah, no. And my wife, she knows too. She's like, "Have you gone surfing?" Nope. You know, like, I think you need to go for a surf. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. Because
Yeah,
for me,
absolutely.
yeah, I love working, and I'm very like, I've had to learn to be really diligent because just outside my studio, it's literally down a path to the beach. And
Oh, and
so for for my friends to be calling me, "Hey, surf is good. It's only 10 minutes away to some of the perfect surf." Usually always great weather. I've had to really learn diligence and be like, no, I gotta finish my project. I'll surf on the weekend. Because from high school, I was going at least like once a day to 5 times a week. And now, unfortunately, I do it maybe once or twice every 2 weeks. Um, but I'm grateful. You know, right now is the time to hustle. Right now is the time I'm building. So I know like the ocean will be there, the surf will be there, and I do get to spend time with my family there now. And even if it's not surfing, we go to the beach almost every week. Okay, we do go to the beach. Surfing is different, but the beach too is great family time. And now I have a 1 year old son who absolutely loves the sand and the water and the beach. So it's just a great place to rejuvenate, you know,
yeah.
and get it back and then start your week again. And yeah, it's really important to me to be near the water or in the water and to get that healing.
No, absolutely. I mean, you continue to work on such great arts of work, and whether it's murals or paintings or exhibitions. Talk to me about the moment that brands started to, wanting to collaborate with you. The likes of Vans and Hawaiian Airways and Bloomingdale's. I mean, that must have been a real big moment for you.
Yeah, it's pretty magical. It's hard for me to say that, but it is because I think, you know, I think the answer for that comes from understanding the business part of it too, you know. I'd say you could be the most talented artist in the world, and if you were to looking to monetize it or get the attentions and likes of some of those clients, you'd have to understand the business, you know. You'd have to understand branding, understand how people respond to shapes and color or a character or a story, a narrative, a movement. You know, you can find your niche of what drives your work. And for me, I noticed that, um, well, a fun quick example here is a portrait painting that it's a big accomplishment for me because I've never thought I could do like a portrait because graffiti and cartoon characters were more my specialty and what I loved doing, but I wanted to challenge myself. So in college, I took a oil painting class and wanted to push my skills as far as I could to know that I could do it. So I know I could paint a portrait, but I choose to work with, um, let's call it easy to digest, fun, and large shapes and colors, something that can resonate and communicate quickly, um, where it doesn't take too much time to try and decipher what the meaning is, that
Yeah,
there is a little bit more depth in there. So it's easily digestible. It's not too overbearing and overwhelming with color, but easy on the eyes. You know, it's just the light, soft pastels, but also something that would look good on a product. It would look good on a wall. It would look good on someone's living room. Because that was the other design route I had to keep in mind because I love painting like in the graffiti realm, skeletons and pirates and
yeah.
monsters and kind of more
Let's get that in the
gnarly
home.
things. Yeah, and so
Yeah,
when I think like how many people would actually want this in their living room? A very small community would probably love it, and I do encourage sticking with that if you absolutely love it and it's your style because you'll find your community, you'll find your collectors, you'll find everyone who would want to celebrate that. But for me being in Hawaii, it didn't really work to my environment and the people and demographic here. So knowing the market, knowing the demographic, I found a nice blend with my graffiti style and what we'd call surf art.
Yeah.
And that's where I found my uniqueness amongst all the other surf artists on Oahu. Where I was like, man, I don't really want my stuff to look just like someone else who does a surf art. How do I take what's unique to me and apply it to come up with a style? And that was graffiti. The large shapes and colors, the color combinations we use, the characters, um, the ways we even paint graffiti with cutting and outline or whatever it is. Um, I knew like, oh, none of the other surf artists have the street art experience like that. So I'm gonna lean into that, and then
Yeah.
just what we come up with.
No, absolutely. And, I still firmly believe that, just having sort of difference with other artists is what drives people forward and actually attracts people to you.
Hmm. Hmm. And that attraction brought Vans, it brought Visla, it brought all these companies that I dreamt of as a kid. I remember as a kid I had a great opportunity to be a part of like a small entrepreneurial program when I was 15 years old, and my girlfriend had this little high school girlfriend. I feel like so young. I have a girlfriend at 15 years old. Who are you? You know, but
Started early.
yeah, her mom had this little program going on, and they'd interviewed me, and we did a little project where this woman paid me my first $200 to paint a mural in her house, and we filmed it, and they asked what my dream goal was, and I was like, well, I just want to make art for people and design for companies and make clothes and all the things I was into at the time. And I think I just always had that kid in me, that same kid that I wanted to make proud and really do it for. So I just kept pushing, and then when the Vans, like, it happened really quick. And when I say quick, it's quick to the eyes of everyone else, but for me, like I said, I've been working at it since I was 15 years old. You know, I got my
Yeah.
first like mural money when I was 15, and I'm 30 this year.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, people don't see I wish people could see more the efforts on a day-to-day basis of an entrepreneur and artist, because I don't think they would believe the not just the graft, but the hard work and like you said before, like the roller coaster, because it truly is.
mhm. Yeah, and you never know. You never know what's gonna come, and that's why I think it's such a fun surprise. You know, you get an email, it's just like, oh, Lululemon. You know, it's like all these Starbucks, and I'm like, what? Why me? Like, I'm just a country boy on the North Shore. Like, I didn't come from a whole lot, but it speaks volumes when you have a good character and you're cool with people and you're honest in your business dealings, and you really just put in a lot of that hard work and passion into what you do. And I work 24/7. It's a problem, like in here, whether
Yeah.
I'm drawing or whether I'm driving or at dinner with my family. My wife's like, gotta check back into earth,
And
like
well,
you're.
it's true, isn't it? Because I've quite
Yeah.
often found, like, even on vacations, your head's still in work, and I've always felt
Hmm.
awful. But like it comes from a place of love, I think, really, because we do
Hmm.
love what we do, and it's just hard to just come off that sort of train, if you will.
And it's working with inspiration. I feel like understanding the way that I work with, like, or the relationship I have with nature, I also have the same relationship with the creative universe, an inspiration, and it's a force that it doesn't just pop into your brain, a great idea for no reason. Yeah, I see it more as like you were given this idea and entrusted with this idea to execute it because you've been so good at executing consistently throughout your life. Like, what about this one? Here's a thought and an idea that comes to you, and it's trusted, that you'll get it done and be able to execute it. And we want to like it wants to see what I come up with based on that idea. So I try to follow that, and so it strikes at any moment, and And whether it's in the shower, those are some of my greatest ideas in the shower, or driving along the highway, just, being mindless and just going with the flow, surfing in the ocean. But working with that creative and inspiration has really, and trusting it, there's a lot of times where
Completely.
I'd doubt it and be like, I don't know if that's a good idea, or I don't know if I like that idea, but um, trying it out and just seeing where it goes has always led me to, um, forming these great relationships with companies, and utilizing, the artwork and the branding and all of those design aspects that I learned growing up to make a good projects. And um, the Vans thing was such an amazing thing for me because I grew up around pro surfers. My dad was a surfer, my friends are all surfers, and I love surfing, but I never got to the level of wanting to, being a professional, but I always wanted it. My friends were all doing it. And they get the free clothes from the companies and be able to surf every day for work, and it's like, man, that'd be so cool to do as a job. Um, but what happened, which was even better, was that I found my way to that industry in the way that I would have
That you,
fit the
yeah,
best, that I love,
yeah,
and that means so much more to me to like do the Vans Triple Crown contest poster work, which is probably the biggest three events of surfing combined into one that we have here. And when I was asked to do the work, I saw it as like I won that contest as the artist.
completely, completely.
Like out of all the artists you could have chosen, I was the winner that year of that contest. And that, to me, like, I didn't make it as the pro surfer, but I made it as the artist to get that one.
Which
And
I, which which Jack must feel a lot more sweeter because you've done things your natural way creatively to get there.
it really was. And oftentimes I'm just on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, with very little celebration of the success. I understand the success that is coming, and I'm very, very grateful for it. And there's a kind of mentality within our local communities where we try to, we don't, we get a little uncomfortable celebrating those things. But I have to remind myself to do that, at times where maybe I'm low, or remind myself like, man, you made the shoes. When I walked in to the store and saw the shoes I was able to design myself on the wall, I was like, this is everything that my 15-year-old self dreamt of. Um, so it's there, like I know, and I fully believe that you can find it, even if it doesn't work out one way, maybe it's just meant to work out another way. But don't give up. Don't give up on those dreams, because it will be a lot sweeter when they realize and manifest in the way that it will be the best for you, you know?
Oh, completely. And it's quite funny you mentioned that because I think in the early days, I think everyone thinks when you get that one big client, that's you, right? That's you made. But the thing is, it's what you've just said. You then you love it, you do it, but then your head's on to the next.
Hmm.
And it's like you say, it does happen fast, but then you're just sort of trying to progress, so you sort of just move on from that.
Hmm. Well, it's at this point, it's once that project's done, I have four more deadlines that I've been pushing off in order to get this one done. So it's great to have those moments that I really cherish when you realize it. Like, man, this is beautiful. Um, and then I go home and work. Like I go home and work till 2 a.m. There's no like celebrating for weeks on end where you're just like, oh, we made it. Let's go party. Let's go have a great time. It's like, man, that was nice. That was beautiful. Like, we're clocking in when we get home tonight.
Oh, it's completely true. I mean, let's go on the opposite end of the success. Talk to
Hmm.
me about a real struggle or a challenge over the years?
Um, this is good. I think current, like right now, is a great one to speak on because there's always things that'll come up. But what I'm going through now is trying to be constantly creative. It's and not just squeeze it all out because I feel like I'm squeezing everything I have into it. Where else do I pull from? So, or creative blocks. Creative blocks is something that's always gonna get you no matter where you're at with your artist journey. And learning how to combat those creative blocks by being self-aware and how you work, how you tick, how your brain works, what excites you, what pulls you out of that deep thought conversation with that second voice that's telling you maybe that's not the way you should go. Do you think people will actually like that, or do you think the client will be happy with that? And that discouraging voice where you start to just go so far deep into that you find yourself very frustrated and confused sometimes of how you want to create this artwork. Um, Pulling yourself out of there, for me is going on drives, maybe a shower, like I said, or washing the dishes, surfing, or sometimes I'll do Muay Thai, martial arts, something just different that I don't have to think about the art.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
that's one thing, some things that have worked for me with a creative block, talking to a supportive friend, someone who is exciting and asking more about them and what they're excited about creatively, and just have a fun conversation and just boost your emotions. And that's where I found like a lot of my emotions and a lot of my stress really brings that second voice and of doubt in. And so if I can just be excited and happy and just feel, like there's a fire, I'll talk to a friend, or I'll a fun one that I found is sometimes I work too much. I work a lot with clients, so I always have a directive. I always have some sort of design directive where when it comes time to create freely for myself, I'm like, wait, what's the directive? Like
Yeah,
I'm free. I'm
completely.
free to
Yeah.
do whatever I want on this. Like, okay, well, what is it that I want to do?
And you almost forget
Like
what to do in those
yeah,
moments.
like there's so many things that I thought of during the week. Like, man, if I just had free time, I would do this. But do I do that or do the other one? And so that way, one thing I thought of, well, make yourself a client, give yourself a job, write a directive on a piece of paper and an email, whatever it is, and be like, hey, Jack, can you design this for yourself? Like, and the deadline's due next week, so you actually get it done, you know? Um, so those are a few tricks that I've used to get out of that creative block. Um, which yeah, every artist is gonna go through it.
Oh.
And no matter who you are, it could outlast a week, it could last a month, but the more I've fought it and combat it and find the ways that help me get excited for the work again, I've been able to shorten that time span, of battling with it, where it's like within hours I can get back out of a creative block, or it's still I gotta fight it for 3 days, do something different, it'll click. All right, I'm back. Like let's get to it.
Yeah, and I just think that's all part of the process. I mean, that's a great segue actually for the next question because certainly as a designer over the last decade, I found it's been so paramount being surrounded by other creatives for the learning and
Mm,
growing. And what are your thoughts around just having a community around you as a creative?
well, I'd say I would not be where I'm at without my community. If it wasn't for the people around me, whether they're creatives or whether they're my local community, giving me an opportunity as a kid to paint their backyard wall, like
Yeah.
if it wasn't for everyone who has helped me along this journey, I would never be what I am today, and my art wouldn't be where it was. And so being able to find that community, whether it's a local community, an online community, an art community, a skateboarding, a surfing, a rock climbing, or a book club, whatever it is, when you find the group of people that are supportive of what you do and help, perpetuate what you believe in, they're the most valuable people to help with what your voice, your ideas, your artwork, whatever it might be in your creative realm. I just, yeah, everything is because of them and my friends. I've met so many amazing friends, and some of my bros, that I consider, family because of how much time we've put in together, and the struggles we put in together, and working through things together. A group of friends, I was very blessed, like in high school, to gravitate towards the surfers who are also creators and videographers,
Yeah.
and we I had so like supportive friends, whether we'd show up with our sketchbooks to the surf spot and be drawing at the beach, and I'd show my friends who were surfing and be like, oh yeah, that's sick. Or my friends who wouldn't do graffiti and just hang out and surf, they would come with us on graffiti missions just to hang out. So
Yeah.
it was always around, I was always around creative humans, and people who weren't afraid to give me the critiques. Like on
Well,
the
that's what
wall
you
when we're
need,
painting,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
when we're painting graffiti, one of my favorite things is just talking trash to each other. Just like, bro, come on, that's a whack line. Like
Start
all that.
again,
Yeah, it taught us like a little bit of toughness when it came to it, but like it was a friendly competition sometimes. We're like, oh, I'm gonna smash yours, like we're gonna
Yeah.
get into it, and that camaraderie was so much fun, and it is still so much fun. And now from that graffiti wall, we take it to murals where we're on two separate lifts painting a giant building, and we're talking trash to each other from each of the lifts, and where it's great. And sometimes some of the best ideas came from just joking around with the homies, just what if we did this and that? Oh, that'd be so funny. And then we actually do it, and it created a little bit of noise, and it just pushed us in so many different ways where it was so healthy. And Hawaii and the community that I've been able to be in with the mural festivals all around the world, I have friends that I'd be like, oh, you're going to be in England at the same mural festival as me? Like, let's hang out, like, oh, hey,
Yeah.
how's it going? I haven't seen you. We're in Washington, D.C. We're from, you know, Colombia, Hawaii, and we meet here in Washington to hang out and beautify the community and paint murals. Like I have friends all over the planet now, and it's so amazing to have an art community that supports one another and that don't gatekeep, the secrets and the
Oh,
process.
a 100%. 100%.
I've met some of the biggest artists who they vibed you out and they're too cool, and I get it, I respect it. But I've met just as amazing artists who are like, yeah, bro, like what would you like to talk about? Like, I'm here, you got my time. They gave me my time, and that meant so much to me as an artist starting off, to just to like have an artist give me their time and just tell me a few things about business, about art, whatever it was, where I was like, man, I thank you, like a lot of times, like I know you guys are so busy, you got a lot on your mind, I don't want to bother you, but that really meant a lot to me. So that's why I try my best to give it forward and pay it forward to whoever asks me any advice, because I know how much it meant to me growing up.
Oh, completely. And I think it's even more of a fun turn when all these creative friends then become collaborators.
Too. And your heroes sometimes. Like I remember there's a specific artist from Hawaii. His name is Woes, and he paints these crazy panda bears, like huge with armor sometimes with like b-boy stuff on. And I remember when I was in seventh grade, I was drawing his pandas in my book, and then now he's a phone call away. He's a what's up homie, like he's
Yeah.
like the friend now, where it's like, man, it's really cool to see a lot of people I looked up to who I'd look in the graffiti books, I'd look online, and now they're just friends I can chat with. And that is such a cool relationship. And it's mainly because they're just awesome human beings who are willing to, you know, give their time, and not see others as, maybe an obstacle, or like, oh, this kid's bugging me. So um It's awesome to be able to develop those relationships in this awesome community.
And that's, all because, of course, you didn't take the design agency job, right? All this has
Mm-hmm.
happened because you went with your heart.
Yeah, I just showed up, like showing up regardless of if you have a purpose there or not. The purpose is always because you love it. Networking is huge. Networking is huge within the route that I've taken as trailblazing my own path, because if it wasn't for the friends and connections that I've made over the years, like, oh hey, we know Jack. Jack, do you want to jump on this wall? Like, I don't got time for it. Yeah, sure. And then that turned into a relationship with that business where I'm painted 6 more murals for them, or they'd give me tips and tricks for it. But like showing up, I was showing up to the local mural festival when I was in high school just to look and just to see and just
Yeah,
to be in that environment and experience it. And I knew like, oh, these artists are coming. I just want to see it for myself. Um, I just want to see them work. And to where now it trickles to where I try to go to museums when I travel and find the masters' paintings and just be like, I saw this with my own 2 eyes.
yeah.
It once was a small image in a textbook, and now I'm standing in front of the Last Supper 2 weeks ago with my family, just taking in one of the oldest murals that's survived wars, which has been talked about for generations, and I can't believe I'm standing in front of it. And that's the level of love that I want to put into it, just by showing up and just being there. Like, the masters were here, and that's very special for me. To be in that room with that energy of history, of culture, of artistry, that I like to almost absorb, when I'm in those areas, when I'm at the
Yeah.
art shows, when I'm talking to people, like, let me absorb as much as I can and take that energy back home to my desk, and um yeah, it's got me a lot of either networking, friends, or just to experience art in a different way than just seeing it in a book.
Oh, completely. And I think also like time away, not just at the ocean, but actually seeing other things is
Hmm.
what makes then going back to the studio worthwhile and sort of
Hmm.
ready to tackle it for the next few months or whatever.
Yeah, even just like architecture, like, I've been able to go to so many amazing countries with beautiful architecture that inspires me just as much as a cool design I would see, or being able to go to Japan and seeing all their amazing design work and character work in every single piece of the thing that they touch, the quality that they put into the temples, or the quality people put into their buildings, whatever it is. Like, being able to go and see the world has been such an amazing privilege, and not necessarily a privilege, because there's a way that I make it happen. Some
Or
people might like to buy fancy cars or dirt bikes or whatever it is that my friends like to buy, lifted trucks and all that. And uh I like to spend my money on going to trips with my family to go experience the world firsthand, and learning about cultures, and more cultures other than my own, and being in my own, small, tight-knit culture. I've been able to learn, like, respect, and take from it and learn from it, and just evolve as a human being just as much as an artist.
oh, completely. And it's interesting if I was to say to you going forward, who would be your dream collaborators or projects? What would you be saying?
Here's a good one. Um, So I'll answer it in the way of like something I'm aspiring to, as to like maybe a recognizable figure or a company, or um, that type of entity. Um, right now, shucks. And because the honest answer is gonna come after, but well, I mean, it's both honest. But for me, I think I'm wanting to move more of a collaborator with museums. Not so much businesses and corporate companies and all that. And of course, that's a part of me that I love. from growing up as a graphic designer, working for these companies. Um, but I'm kind of making a shift to where a lot of my paintings I want to work with like a museum, and where would my art be, and what level would it have to be, and what am I supposed to say and do, and what's that museum quality that could be shown with my work. That's something that um, I have a goal for, which I'm putting more time into my paintings. I'm putting more time into my narrative, my materials I use. What would make it a museum painting? So that's just one goal and collaborator with. Of course, there's surf brands that I love, and streetwear. I love streetwear. If there was a streetwear that I like, I love Bape. I love extra large. Those are Japanese streetwear companies. I love a lot of those types of companies
Yeah.
too. Fashion houses. Like, I mean, of course you like get the Louis Vuitton, the Gucci. I even try to find like which one matches my style more to be
Sure.
more of a reasonable um collaborator. And like I even like look at their portfolios of design work. I'm like, man, Gucci looks like a real fun one. They use a lot of fun colors, kind of have that retro vintage vibe always. um that's all the fun stuff, right? But for me, what I've learned recently, paying attention to a lot of the artists and um fashion moguls, or like designers, whoever it might be, they've always come up together with other artists and peers, to then where I'm seeing at them now, they've been doing all the work with their peers in the history of their design careers, to where now we see them, oh, they're collaborating with each other. That looks like a new relationship, but really they've had a relationship for so many years. But they're just starting something new. Now's the time for them to start X company together, or X,
Oh, yeah.
whatever it is, to where now I'm realizing the power I have within my current community of collaborators and my peers that I have now. And I know that if you want to play the long game with me, we're going to do some amazing things down the road.
Yeah.
So a lot of my aspirations that I used to have, where I was real hungry and I was like, man, if like I wish I got that job rather than, like, oh, someone else got it and I get bumped, whatever. Like I've been able to mature out of that, where I'm not
Yeah.
as like hungry or like desperate, like I desperately need to work with these people. Whereas like the companies and the right companies will come at the right time, as long as you're doing your best work, you're consistent, you're a great person, an honest person, they'll come. They'll notice you, they'll recognize you, just do the work towards your goals. But when I see my friends who are have the fire, they have their businesses. I'm also a graphic designer for two businesses that my friends are starting. And it's not about the money, because there's no money right now. It's about where can we take this together?
Of
What
course.
can we do to
Yeah.
shake up the surf community and start something new? And in 5 to 10 years from now, we're going to be the ones that kids are looking at. They're like, oh, look, they're working together. They're creating this crazy brand. Um, that's amazing. And think that it happened overnight, or just like, oh, it's because they have already this clout or fame, like that worked in their favor. It's like, well, we've been working with each other for years, and it just only happens that now is the right time for this project, and we can execute it amazingly because we've done the work, you know?
Oh, completely. And it's funny you should mention that, no money and you're, doing it for your friends just out of love and whatnot. And, I've been recently asked to do some workshops at a local school and, there's no money there and but the fact that you have these ideas that you can take and inspire kids at an early age is outweighs, I think, any pay packet.
hmm I love that you brought up the kids, because that's who I design for. Whether it's for my 16-year-old self, whether it's for my son that's growing up, or whether it's for the kids that never had the environment I had, the creative environment. I'm very, very lucky to grow up in a family of artists. But I know that the kid next door from me didn't have that.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest living in Hawaii. We're the most expensive state to live in the United States. And we really don't have a whole lot here when it comes down to it. So for me, when I know that like somewhere like my high school is a pot for little plants to grow, let's beautify that pot. Let's make it a creative and welcoming and inspiring pot that they can grow up in. Because right now we barely have money to repaint the school. So there's chips on the walls, there's paint peeling, so that's where now I can take what I've learned. I went on my journey over the past 5, 6 years, traveled the world to be able to come home and really help my community and inspire the kids and to be able to introduce something that maybe those kids never thought was possible, to have a career in art. I know how much it meant
100%.
to me when a mural artist did come to school when I was a kid, and he let me paint a little octopus on his piece.
Yeah.
And for me, that changed everything. So if I can do the same for the kids now and just show like you can make six figures as an artist,
Yeah.
it's possible. And I kick the same red dirt as you kick. I sit in the same bleachers in the same class. I graffitied in the same textbooks, like all that stuff. Like
Uh-huh.
if I just want you to see, like, if I can do it, you can do it. I'm just, that local country boy, like I said, that we just went out there and did it. And I have a lot of friends, a lot of amazing, talented friends who came from my schools that are doing amazing things. And that's where I want to inspire the kids today is like, look, you can do it too, and you have more resources than I did when I was a kid. There's social media, there's tools, there's AI, there's so much that you could use as a tool in order to express your creativity. And honestly, those kids probably need it the most because they might just not know that it can heal them. It can provide an outlet for their traumas. It can provide a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, a sense of community that they might not have when they get home from school, and that's so important to me.
Oh, complete, 100%. And, it's interesting you touched on all those things because, I think when I was growing up, it was certainly the case of, you know, quite sort of straight path jobs and, art was always seen as this sort of not quite ulterior universe,
Starving
but
artist
yeah,
type,
yeah,
yeah.
oh well, good luck with that kind of thing. And
Uh-huh.
it's really nice to hear that. And just I know time will be an issue probably now, Jack, but just what are your thoughts on AI within creativity?
I found a good place with it, where I thought it was gonna take our jobs, like, and it might, it
It
still
might.
might.
Yeah.
But what I have seen is that even regular, like people who don't immerse themselves in artwork too much, they can always tell something's off. They can tell something's a little different, and I think it'll always be that way because a human didn't, actually create the visual part of it,
Yeah,
and I think it just lacks a soul, it lacks a
completely.
spirit.
Yeah.
And I think as humans, we can tell,
Uh-huh,
there's something
massively.
about human nature that we can tell. And so when I understood that, and I was like, oh, well, like people are gonna realize and be like, I mean, I don't really want to pay for that. I love the artist. You are your brand. You are your story. You are your narrative. Everything that's all the experiences that have happened throughout your life add up into what this art piece creates. And no computer can replicate that,
Yeah,
and that's where the beauty of art is. And so if people don't see that beauty, I don't think they'll invest in it. Or if people who don't really care, that's their money to spend. But I know a majority of us, you'll see it, and you'll feel it. There's a feeling. Art isn't. It's not. I don't know. I use AI for if I ever need help in creative blocks too, with composition, with
sure.
idea, or it's just like let me figure out this composition that I can't get out of my head. If I can see it visually, rather than looking at someone else's work on like Pinterest or any of the boards that I kind of put together as mood boards, um, I'd rather like be more authentic to like, well, more authentic, you're using AI. Like not like copy another human's work, but
Uh-huh.
have the computer set up a composition and maybe a color palette that I'd be like, okay, that unlocks what I'm trying to figure out, and then I still design it how I want to design
Oh,
it,
completely. I
you
mean,
know?
I've certainly used ChatGPT, for like starters for like writing or like, you know,
Hmm.
and you just want, you type it in and you just get a vague idea, but then you go off and write it your way. Like you just sort of, it's almost like a co-worker, I suppose, for, you know.
Yes. It's a tool, and if it's a tool rather than the entity, then I don't see the like I see it as a great tool, if it's used for good. But yeah, no, even an artist bio. I'm not the best with my grammar. I'm not the best with words, but if I needed a bio and needed to get it out, it helped me write a beautiful bio that
Yeah.
explained it well, you know? So,
Yeah, absolutely.
um, yeah,
No, it's interesting. I do think it's sort of the things that at the moment for the prompts and stuff, it is lacking
yeah,
sort of individuality for artists. So I don't
yeah,
think we're there yet, but it's certainly an exciting one. I have to say,
yeah.
Jack, thank you so much for taking the time
Mhm.
on this podcast. I really appreciate it. It's been a fantastic chat with you. Where can people find you online and anything else you'd like to promote? Please feel free.
Yeah, no, really, my Instagram is just Jack Soren. I keep a lot of it there. I'm not on TikTok or anything. That's the other part of
Not
being
yet.
an artist today. You have to be an artist. Yeah, you have to be an artist and what a content creator, and I'm finding my balance with it. But yeah, Jack Soren is my Instagram, and jacksorenart.com is my website where you can find some of the products and prints that I sell. But my Instagram kind of is where it's all updated. Um, but yeah, and I think if anything I could say to end it off is just thank you for the wonderful chat, and I really loved the talk, and I just hope that any of the artists or creatives or whoever you are listening, that you benefit from it and that you don't give up too soon, but know that your time is there. It's just around the corner, and you could be famous in Japan. You never know. You could find your success in different parts of the world, but people really need to hear your voice because there's a lot of voices out there that don't really promote a lot of healthy content. And if you can make your voice loud, make it as loud as you can because we need more of you and what you're doing and more awesome humans to share that. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Amazing, Jack. Thank you so much for the kind words. Thanks again.
Right on. Well,